Hello everyone, my name is Katie and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I am ranking my top 10 favorite metal vocalists. Making this list was extremely hard because I like so many different subgenres of metal, and I'm like, when I'm narrowing it down, it's impossible to think of just 10 people because you have harsh vocals and then clean vocals, and it's like, do I make a list mixing those two or do I separate them? And then all the different genres mix up. So guys, I went crazy trying to narrow this down to just 10 people. I have a whole honorable mentions list because I was like, there's no way I just can't talk about some of these people. But I just want to let you know now, if I forget someone that you were thinking like, oh my god, that person's so iconic, how could she forget them? Chances are I probably really love and respect them, but I had to really be subjective here and think about the people that I personally have listened to the most, not people who I think are the most technically skilled and most objectively skilled or best trained vocalists. This is more of like just my personal list. I absolutely have to give that disclaimer on this because these sorts of lists go crazy. People in the comments go nuts, and it makes sense. There's a lot of really talented people out there, and it's hard to actually rank people because there's so many different factors that go into it. But I'm going to try my best today, okay? So I am really excited to talk about this. I get asked this question all the time, like, who's your favorite vocalist? Who's your favorite guitarist? I'll make those sorts of videos later on if you want me to. But right now, let's talk about my top 10 favorite metal vocalists of all time. At number 10, we have John Tardy from Obituary. So I love John Tardy because he's not necessarily like a technically trained death metal vocalist. He's got a very much like a raw and gritty sound to him, and I mean, that's really what you want in death metal. I feel like that style goes better with the type of like kind of groovy death metal that Obituary does. It's very Florida death metal. It's not meant to be pristine and polished, and it adds a lot of character to the music too. Like, think about albums like Slowly We Rot. Say that fast. Slowly We Rot and Cause of Death. They're not necessarily like perfectly produced albums. They're not super clean with it. It's a little bit like gritty. I always say that it sounds like the guitar riffs are drenched in blood. Does that make sense? It's very much like the guitar kind of sounds like a chainsaw to me. So why wouldn't the voice sound like that a little bit? And when it comes to all the sort of like classic death metal, old school death metal vocalists, he is absolutely in my top 3 in that genre. So the fact that he's number 10 on my list is insane because there's so many genres I listen to. I think that should speak volumes on how much I love Obituary and John Tardy's voice. Next up at number 9, we have Mikael Akerfeldt from Opeth. I don't know if I pronounce his last name right, but guys, this is one of the most unique vocalists in metal as a whole because, you know, he does have that death metal vocalist thing. He does the harsh vocals, but he also has this very like soft, melodic, soothing voice, and Opeth works so well because it's kind of like progressive death metal. It has its more slow, toned down moments, and his voice kind of can ebb and flow with the vibe of the song. And they've mastered the art of encapsulating the feel of the song with the vocals. The vocals very much match the instrumental that's going on, and that speaks volumes to his talent, and he has a really cool technique going on. And some of his growls are very like bone-chilling in certain moments of their songs because they kind of lead up into the growls. It's very progressive, like it doesn't just cut straight into it. You're kind of going on this journey of getting heavier and heavier, and sometimes his growls, when you're really into one of their like 8-minute songs, it hits deep in the chest. I would say Michael's one of the most versatile vocalists in all of metal, and most definitely in death metal. Is Opeth a death metal band? I don't really know what you would consider them. I guess progressive death is the best genre. Coming in at number 8, we have Tatiana Shmayluk from Ginger. I was sleeping on Tati for a really long time because she's always been very popular. I've heard a lot about her. Obviously, as a woman who likes metal, people are always talking about this female-fronted band. I remember their song Pisces like really blew up on the internet the last like 8 years or so. So they've always kind of been around, but I never really dug into their discography and really started to appreciate them until the past couple of years. And she very much has that same thing going on as Mikael from Opeth. Very good at matching the vibe of the music with her vocals. She has the skill of like the soft singing, very pretty, soft, melodic voice, gorgeous, like angelic. And then she, in contrast, uses this super demonic, evil growling sound, and it's really impressive because she's got very guttural growls. It's not as much of the throaty stuff that a lot of times female vocalists do. She digs deep and she can growl deeper than some of the men that I've seen in this genre. I love female vocalists like Tati because her gender kind of isn't part of the conversation, because she outdoes so many of the guys out there that it's not like, oh, she's good for a girl. No, she's just a good vocalist. I just feel like I've grown to appreciate progressive metal so much more than I used to. A couple years back, you would hear me always saying, oh, I don't really like it, I get a little bored with it, my brain checks out. Something just clicked one day and I started really enjoying that genre, and I've been exploring so many bands under that progressive realm, and Gender has become one of my favorite bands ever. At number 7, we have Nils Molin from Dynasty. He's also been a part of other bands like Amaranth, but Dynasty is kind of like his baby. That's really his band. And this is the first vocalist on this list that doesn't do harsh vocals. He only does singing. But guys, he is a powerhouse. Think of someone like Ronnie James Dio, kind of like that level of operatic singing, very powerful from the chest.
I cannot wait, belong enough, still burning for you.
But something about Nils and his tone is so smooth like butter. It is absolutely gorgeous to listen to. He can be very powerful, and Dynasty is like a power metal band, so it suits it really well. But even in their really emotional songs, the more vulnerable songs, he has this certain character in his voice that it's almost like he's acting with the singing. It's very much like he's putting thought into each word that he says and making sure his tone matches the vibe of the lyrics. This is someone that I could listen to anytime. I think I found Dynasty like 3, maybe 4 years back, and I'm always finding myself going back to this band and also listening to some of the stuff he's done in Amaranth. He's also collaborated with a couple of bands here and there, and anything Nils is in turns to gold. I absolutely love every collaboration, every project he gets involved in. I just feel like anything that has Nils Molin's name on it, I'm going to love instantly. I would say he's one of the most like underrated modern vocalists when it comes to singing. Like, people never talk about him. I'd never hear anything about him. I kind of feel like I discovered him and his band on accident a little bit. Like, they have pretty good numbers. I think they might be bigger in Europe because they are a Swedish band. I feel like they're more popular overseas than they are in the US. I think maybe power metal is just not that big around here. It's not necessarily part of the mainstream, so you don't really hear a lot of metalheads talking about it, but he is so slept on. I feel like he could be in an opera. Like, he should play the Phantom in the Phantom of the Opera. He literally has the chops for something at that level. He's so just like classically talented. I don't even know if he has any proper classical training or if it's just something he learned on his own. He definitely has influences from people, like I said, Ronnie James Dio. You can hear some Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden in there. He very much takes those influences from those 80s bands, but he just adds a whole new element of emotion to it. Number 6. So this is another vocalist that doesn't necessarily do harsh vocals. I don't even really know what you call this. It's King Diamond.
That's what the day is for. And the clock strikes midnight. Who do they get less?
King Diamond is like so unique. No one sounds like him. He has that really like high falsetto that he does. That's kind of his signature sound. He did it with Merciful Fate and with his self-titled band King Diamond. He goes into those really high notes, but then sometimes he goes into this like lower voice that it's funny. When I was younger and I liked Merciful Fate, I thought they had two vocalists because of how much his voice can change throughout one song. Think of songs like Witch's Dance. His voice changes so much. He does this more like, kind of like his voice comes from here. It's almost like a in the throat, but not a vocal fry type of sound. And then he does like the head voice with the really high falsettos. And some people find his voice very annoying. People say it sounds like Satanic Elmo. It is what it is. But I personally enjoy it. I feel like it has a lot of character, and he's very much a storyteller in his lyrics. With both bands, it's always more about the story and less about the emotion. It's very artistic, and it's just one of those things that he has a signature sound. He's stuck with it. People love it. He found his tribe of people who enjoy it. Like I said, a lot of people just absolutely hate him, but something about him so iconic, just the look of him as a front man. I love his face paint and his outfit. And guys, the microphone stand that he uses, did you guys know that those are actual bones? It's like a real human femur bone and something else that he got from like a medical school or something. I'm not really sure, but like, how metal is that? Like, the guy's image is just everything. One of my favorite people ever in metal, just because of how like silly and over the top it all is. It's very theatrical, and I love me some theatrics and metal. They go hand in hand to me. At number 5, we have, I feel like, somewhat of a controversial take because people consider this one of the worst vocalists in metal ever. But I'm gonna say it, guys. It's Dave Mustaine.
Oh, I had no idea what it cost. My life passed before my eyes.
Hear me out. If you know me, you know I love Megadeth. I love Dave Mustaine. His voice technically isn't like the most classically trained or the most perfect, but people kind of like shit on him a little bit too much. His voice has so much character. Think of like the grittier eras of Megadeth, like Sweating Bullets.
Hello, me, it's me again. You can subdue but never tame.
He very much is like a character portraying a story with his voice, and he puts on this little thing like this right here. I love that sort of character so much more than someone who is technically pitch perfect and has like this perfect tone. Like, what even really is an objectively good singing voice? I don't really get it. I understand having perfect pitch and stuff, but like, we have autotune, Melodyne, and all of that, so who cares about that? What's so bad about someone having a raw, realistic voice, or wanting to put on more of like an act with their voice instead of just singing? Does everyone have to just sound the same? Like, what if every single singer just followed the same exact path and tried to sound as close to each other as possible? That would be so boring. I love Dave Mustaine because he's not boring, and it just feels like a real person singing their lyrics and not trying to be perfect. And metal, to me, was never about being perfect, especially thrash metal, which is where Dave comes from. It, you know, it stems from punk music, and it's all about not giving a shit, right? So thrash kind of like has a lot of vocalists that people consider technically bad, but I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of thrash, is just that like kind of punky, whiny sound that a lot of these guys have. And Dave is just one of the most iconic frontmen ever of all time. You guys know I love Megadeth. I love him as a rhythm guitarist, and he's just an icon. We don't even have to get into it. Number 4 is someone else that is very much well loved, and people sometimes say he's technically not a good singer. It is what it is, but I feel like there's like no one on this planet who doesn't love this man. It's Ozzy Osbourne. Which really hits hard, obviously, because he's gone now. He's no longer with us. He has passed, and that's been very hard for me to sort of like accept, because he's just always been such a driving force in metal. He low-key invented metal in Black Sabbath. He's a big part of that. He's a big cog in the machine of metal, and he's been a huge force in the way that things are now. Like, he's had so much influence. And when we're talking about his voice specifically, tell me another person that has a tone anywhere close to Ozzy. Now, you could criticize that a lot of his stuff throughout the years was a little bit too auto-tuned. The later his career got, the more of it. Maybe he wasn't able to have as much of a stable pitch and voice. But overall, his raw voice is like unmatched. No one sounds like him. Some people think it's not technically a good singing voice, but it's one of those things where if you're that recognizable, you have something special. I consider that a gift. It's character, like I keep bringing up. To me, it's more about that than being a perfect opera singer or something like that. Never mind his iconography. Like, we could go on about that forever, but I have seen the meme where someone said his voice sounds like a jar of bees. Or something like that, like bees buzzing, and like it kind of makes sense. How did he do that? A lot of it was After Effects, post effects. You know, he very much had this like technique in the production that made him sound a certain way. But even in those early days, like the Black Sabbath days, he's so instantly recognizable. No matter what he ever did, you're like, you hear that voice and you know it's Ozzy, whether you like metal or not. He's so recognizable, and I'm just gonna miss him so much, guys. I even really liked his most recent album, which was Patient Number 9. Even that was a great, solid album. I can't believe that late into his career he was putting on that good of a performance. And like his final show, the final Black Sabbath show on stage, his voice held up really well. I was actually like really surprised in the state that he was in, how good of a performance he put on that one last time. It's like that motivation of knowing it was going to be his last time on stage really helped him just push through. And I don't want to get too emotional about it, but I will always love Ozzy, but vocally speaking, he's absolutely in my top 4. At number 3, we have someone that I've loved so much since, I would say around 17 years old. I discovered Alissa White-Gluz from Arch Enemy. She was actually in a band called The Agonists, like right before that, but Arch Enemy in that era is when I really got into her. They released an album called War Eternal, and guys, something about being a 17-year-old girl and finding another woman in metal that had that beast-like vocal, kind of like we were talking about with Tatiana earlier. She proved the point that you don't have to scream good for a girl. You can just be a good vocalist, a good death metal vocalist, and that's what she is, guys. She brings the power. She actually just recently left Arch Enemy, which is kind of bittersweet, but I, in a way, am excited about it because she's been releasing solo stuff, and I love her song, The Room Where She Died. That's like one of her more recent songs. It's very progressive, kind of has that Ginger and Opeth feel to it. A force to be reckoned with. I love her so much. First of all, she's so beautiful. Like, I love looking up to her and just seeing how her career progresses. She's inspired me a lot to want to create music and made me realize that I can be in the metal scene as a girl, and like I do have a place. She's so inspiring to me, and she has some really cool like core moral values that I really respect, but just her voice alone is just so unmatched. I don't necessarily think she has the best like singing voice. It can be a little bit whiny at times, but I do think she's like slowly learning how to perfect that a little bit more. But her harsh vocals, she has got the technique down. She makes it look easy. She can do like the growls and the more high screams. She can do all sorts of different things, and she kind of like took the spotlight from Angela, who was the Arch Enemy vocalist before her, and I'm pretty sure like the manager and owner of Arch Enemy. You know, she kind of like took over in a really big way. You know, some people were like Team Angela, Team Alissa, and tried to like pin them against each other. And I don't really like that necessarily. But Alissa is one of those like diamonds in the rough, like one of those vocalists that's extremely hard to come by. Not many people sound like her. And I'm so glad she's had the career that she's had. And I've followed her so much over the years. And I'm so glad she's doing her solo stuff. And she's just someone I look up to so much. Alright, it's time for the number 2 spot. And this is someone I struggled a lot with because I kind of wanted to put them at number 1. And then I thought of one more person that I like and appreciate a tiny bit more. But at number 2, we have Chuck Schuldiner from Death. So Chuck Schuldiner is one of those vocalists that is like once in a lifetime. I have never heard another vocalist sound anywhere close to him. Maybe Fernanda Lira from Crypta kind of sounds like him. She has a lot of the like sort of banshee scream that Chuck had going on. But as a harsh vocalist, it's very much hard to find someone that has Chuck's tone. For a male vocalist, he had such like a high range, and it was almost kind of like he would incorporate, in a way, weirdly enough, like a power metal scream, but make it more harsh and more suited for death metal. A good example of this is the Painkiller Judas Priest cover that Death did. Chuck's high scream in the intro of that song it gives me chills every single time. I don't care how many times I've heard it. Incredible. And same with like Spirit Crusher. It has a lot of his like grittiness to it. The Sound of Perseverance is just a great showcase of his vocals. You know, a lot of people like some of their albums that came out before that one more, but something about his vocal work on that one just feels more mature, and gosh, it does something to me. Like, I think it's just the uniqueness of it that I've been trying to find, and I've been chasing that dragon forever, and I always just end up coming back to them and listening to their stuff. And also Control Denied is another band that Chuck was in too, and it's like I said with Nils Molin earlier, everything Chuck Schuldiner touched turned to gold. Anything that man did was magnificent. He had this like understanding of music theory naturally. He said he never actually like learned music theory properly, but he was an incredible writer, incredible guitarist, oh my god. But his just like banshee voice has always stood out to me. I would say he's my #1 death metal vocalist of all time, and he was almost my #1 of all of metal. Not to mention, I love his lyrics. I love the things that he stood for. He was taken so young. Like, guys, I can't believe that someone that talented and unique with a voice like that put out that many albums before his death, and I can't believe that he died so young. I think he was like 31, 32, which is just insane and not fair, but I'm so glad he gave us the discography he did. Okay guys, before we get to #1, I have my iPad here and I'm going to talk about my honorable mentions. I don't think I'm going to expand too much on each one just because I don't want to make this video too long, but these are just names that I felt like I had to bring up and appreciate a little bit because they were so close to being on my list. Oops, sorry about that. My camera like turned off. But anyways, like I was saying, Dickie Allen was one of the first vocalists to kind of have that sort of animalistic sound in deathcore. And I feel like he started like a whole new subgenre of the genre. Second to last honorable mention is Dio. I don't really have to say much. He's just very much inspiring to a lot of the people that I listen to. I feel like he walked so a lot of the vocalists I enjoy could run, especially Nils Molin. He is absolutely a huge influence for that guy. The last honorable mention is M. Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold. I feel like if you asked me a little over 10 years ago, this guy would have been my #1. I don't know what it is, but I've just like grown to not care as much for him as a vocalist. But back in the day, he stood out so much. He had like a really gritty, unique voice, but he also can hit some really nice notes. Like if you listen to some of his live performances, you can tell the man just genuinely loves to sing when he's not just doing that super gritty, raspy thing. Sometimes he really like can belt and, you know, project really well, and I appreciate him for that. And I'm surprised he didn't make it into my top 10 because like I said, there was a time where he was my #1 favorite person ever. I think I may have just grown out of Avenged Sevenfold a little bit, which is like so sad because they used to be my whole identity. It's crazy how we like mature and change with our tastes. So those are my honorable mentions. So sorry if I left out anyone that you really love. You know, just let me know in the comments who you think should have been on my list. But now it's time to talk about my #1 spot, and that is none other than James Hetfield from Metallica. So honestly, James Hetfield to me is like, I picture him and I think metal. I know metal artists came before him. He's not the founding father of metal by any means. He's definitely like the 3rd generation of all of that. But something about him to me, he is like the biggest force in the type of metal that I really enjoy. That sort of like mid to late 80s thrash metal. He's the person that I've listened to the most throughout my life, I believe, because Metallica has so many albums that I love. Their discography is so long. They have so many different styles and genres mixed into their catalog. There's something for every single mood, and you know, James isn't this like polished, perfect singer. He very much is talented, don't get me wrong, but he feels so real and emotional, and his lyrics are very vulnerable, and I've just always connected to his voice really well. He has this certain like richness to his voice that I feel like shows up more and more the older that he gets.
Life it seems will fade away, drifting further every day, getting lost within myself, nothing matters, no one else.
And it's almost like I kind of like his singing voice now more than I did back in the day. He used to have a little bit more of that like shouty thrash voice when he was younger, and then it matured into this like buttery voice, like kind of like the Black Album is when that really started. And just over time, he turned into like this beautiful singer, not just like a thrash vocalist. Like he really did become vocally talented, and his live performances are amazing. If you listen to like a raw, unedited Metallica live performance still to this day, when all the members are over 60, it blows my mind how good James sounds. And then like obviously people shit on Lars for the drumming, but I'm impressed by like how fast the music is and they can still keep up and all of that. James's voice has just aged like fine wine, and he only gets better with age, and it's so impressive to me. And out of all the voices I've had in my ear holes over the years, I think James Hetfield might be the one that I've listened to the most. He's definitely my #1 favorite frontman of all time. He just is everything to me. He feels like a real person and not a character. He's wearing his heart on his sleeve for everyone to be entertained by, but it also creates this sense of community. And you know, he says this thing, like he calls the fans the Metallica family, and it very much feels like that, because it feels like we get to know him in a very deep way that a lot of artists kind of put up a block. We've been able to like be in his mind a lot through his lyrics over the years, and I feel like it just creates a connection that's very special. So yes, that is my list of my top 10 favorite metal vocalists ever. Let me know in the comments below what your top 10 is. Maybe I should do a separate one for harsh vocalists only, because this one was like a very all over the place list with all the different genres. But yeah, let me know your favorite people in metal. Let me know what you agree with and disagree with. Who should I have put on this list? Who shouldn't I have put on this list? I know some people are going to have feelings about that. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video right here. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!